Hello, let me just try and adjust the lighting to make it a bit better because it looks a bit weird at the moment. Probably need to get as behind the webcam as possible, I imagine. Probably would look better with the yellow light, so let me do that. Yeah, it looks a bit more natural with the yellow light. So, time for a stream. Because the football's on tonight, I'm on a bit earlier. So, all right, Brighto, let me get my glasses on, actually. I can't read the comment very well because they're too small and I've got not got the glasses on. If I'm looking at my phone and playing a game, it's all right. But when I'm looking at the big screen, because it's in 4K, they're really small. Right, okay, so I put the Conquistador helmet back on. So, right, Brighto, all right, Chocolate and Muffin, right, Weapon Collector, Mike, Rich. Yeah, I was just watching before this stream a load of those videos. I said to Mike on Twitch about them and the other people, not Twitch, Twitter. Right, okay. The bloke who did the Dumpton video, or the woman that did the Dumpton video, because the bloke narrates it, but I think it's a woman that did the writing for him. They've done loads of videos like that on their channel, and I've not actually got around to watching them, so I'm watching them now. So a load of them were bloody funny. So I was, when I was meant to be starting the stream, I ended up getting distracted. I was going to start at 7 p.m. tonight, and then because the pre-match stuff starts earlier, I thought some people would already be off by that point. Like by 7:30, 7:45, so I thought I'll start a bit earlier. Right, Persia? That's cool, Brighto. I'm meant to be filming one for Mike a bit later, so I'll do that probably about 10 p.m. I've probably done it on this channel before. It's the one about the weird yellow man in the house. Sounds strange, I know it is strange, but it's an interesting sort of creepy story, so I'll share it. So tomorrow I'm going to get the last video done on the War Emergency Guidebook. I'm going to take that helmet off because it's not got the liner. It's a bit uncomfortable. So tomorrow I'm going to get the last video done on the War Emergency Guidebook, and then I'll just have to edit that one because I don't obviously want to show people's names and addresses in it, because unlike other people, I don't dox people. So I'll do that video tomorrow, and I also want to do a video this week, weirdly. I'm not a football fan at all, Stuart, but I did watch a lot of the England stuff in the Euros recently, just because we did well for once. But whether or not I watch this game, I'm not sure. Normally, I turn them on just before the end to see what the score is and the penalties. But what I want to do a video on is I bought this shit from Amazon. So if you watch channels like Big Clive, you'll know what this is. But let me get my little bulb tester out so you can see it without me plugging it in. So it's a fake germicidal lamp. So it's the same color as a germicidal lamp, but it's not actually giving off UVC. So it's one of these Chinese scam products which they sell in like proper shops where they shouldn't sell them. And it's meant to be a plug-in little lamp that gives off UVC, and I've got a proper UVC bulb. But this does not give off UVC. So in the video, I'll test it with some Geiger counters, some other ways of testing it. But yeah, it turns out there's loads of these scam sort of products online. So if you're buying one to disinfect stuff, you might be getting scammed. So I'd say with a germicidal bulb, go with one that looks a bit like this, or, the straight ones, because they're at least the proper ones. Whereas this thing, it looks like a proper bulb, but it's not, because I've been measuring it plugged in, and it does not give off any ultraviolet at all. Because I can actually sniff it while doing this. Bit weird, but there's no ozone. Because anybody that's actually used a UVC bulb will know you get a lot of ozone off of UVC. Speaking of women's football, Stuart, have you seen, is it not the 9 o'clock news sketch on women's football? All right, Flazzy, I don't think a previous comment showed up for me if you made one. Because I can't even see the right. All right, Rhino said, is there any good perks for being a member? You're subscribed to a member, so thank you. It's mostly just the members' streams. Now and again, if people want me to do a members video, I'll do one. It has to be, a subject people find interesting, really. But the main reason is just basically that I can do member streams. And I can also, on YouTube, although they've made it more difficult again now, because of course they have, you can prioritize comments by members. So if I've got a few minutes to reply to, comments in a day, for example, I can reply to members before I reply to other people. So, you get a bit more perk out of paying for it. It's mostly just for the members' streams and if you want to just support the channel. But members, like as far as he said, members' chats are much better when we do them because there's really, for the most part, I say 95+% of members are people that want to be in the chat. So when you're in the chat on a member stream, it's mostly us just talking about stuff in depth that interests people. So if somebody's got a question, we can actually, talk about it properly, rather than it having to be like a 30-second little, bit where I then go to the next comment. Let me search that, Rich, and then I'll try and watch it later if I remember. The Man-Eating Lions of Savo. But I'm assuming it's from a specific channel. Anyway, I'll look for it later. But yeah, is it like just a narration of like an audiobook type thing? I think that's the one, the women swapping shirts, isn't it? That they get their tits out. That's a joke. That's the reason people watch it, if they swap the shirts, No, I might go to see it dead stock, but obviously, as you know, if it's visible in the background, I really like the old Dune, the David Lynch version of Dune. I really like. I like the book. There's the Command and Conquer style Dune games that Westwood did, which are good. There's the Dune TV series, which is okay, but very low budget. The new one, I'll see it at some point. Whether or not I can be bothered to go to the cinema to see it is another thing, because the nearest cinema to me is still like a 20 to 30 minute car drive. So there's not a cinema really close to me. But I'm tempted to see it, but they're splitting it into 2 movies this time, aren't they? Which is probably good, but also I heard it ends at a bit of a cliffhanger where it's kind of like people are saying, well, the best bit of it's going to come in the second movie. It would probably be best, Dune, really, as a HBO miniseries, I think, something like that, where you can have 6 hours worth of episodes or something on it, rather than like 1 or 2 films. I wish, Mike. Well, we've talked about them, haven't we? But for people wondering about legal stuff, it's just stuff we've talked about, not done on the stream. Yeah, the David Lynch's Dune I actually really like. A lot of people don't like it, so it's the one in the background there. I've got 2 copies just because of an ordering error when I bought it. But yeah, so that's a special edition of it that Arrow did recently, and I still need to install my 4K Blu-ray player to actually play it. But yeah, the David Lynch one with Kyle MacLachlan, whatever his name is, I can never pronounce it. But the one that lots of people didn't like, but it's actually artistically a very good film. The soundtrack is amazing. The visuals are amazing. But they had to chop the film up really short, so you end up, getting a bit of a disjointed, horrible film. But again, it's a really good film. It's just that I think a lot of people, because I think Frank Herbert actually said, didn't he, when he because he was still alive when a Dune film came out, that he actually said it's a really good adaptation of his book in terms of like visuals and how everything looks and what it should be. The problem I find with the new Dune, again, I've not seen it, so I can't really review it until I've seen it, obviously, because I know a lot of people like to say this is good or this is bad without actually watching a film or like playing a game or whatever. The problem from what I've seen of a lot of the trailer stuff and like the photos from the new Dune is it looks very, very kind of bland. Like everything looks practical, where I think the idea of the original Dune is it's kind of like, very space opera-y sort of, space sort of feudalism, aristocracy sort of thing, where all of the people are going to be, wearing bling, aren't they, essentially, because they're, really rich kind of noble households. So when you have everything where they're kind of wearing practical uniforms, you're like, yeah, that's practical, but it's not sort of what the book's about. You don't, Rhino Bushcraft. It is the people I've given mod to are people I've known on here for ages, or people, that are basically have their comments censored over and over. Yeah, long live the fighters! I have my Fairbairn Sykes somewhere, but the Chris knife in that isn't a Fairbairn Sykes, or sorry, Fairbairn Sykes, but the actual House of Atreides knife in it is a Fairbairn Sykes if you watch it really closely. The new one is woke garbage, is it, in Telebright? That's a shame. The thing is, I really want there to be a really good Dune film, but that's kind of the thing I was worried about. Not so much as being woke, I just thought it looked a bit bland. That's the thing, Mike. I'll definitely give it a watch, but just from what I've seen, it doesn't look that interesting. So that's the problem with the sci-fi version, like, the Sci-Fi Channel version. They didn't have a budget for it, so that's their excuse. This new one definitely has a budget. It's just that, like, the David Lynch one is very visually interesting, because it's one of the main inspirations behind Warhammer 40,000 as well, the David Lynch one. And you can definitely see that, because it's like cathedral ships and all that. It's over the top sort of. That's the reason I like Flash Gordon as well, although Flash Gordon's very campy. It's very interesting how they've done all the designs. Where the problem I have with a lot of the modern sci-fi stuff, and again, it's like the difference between the old Alien and when they did Prometheus. In the old Alien, everything's kind of like bulky, ugly-looking CRT screens, and then in the new Alien, it looks like modern tech. But that doesn't make sense, in Prometheus. Why, if they went forward in time, why they've made the tech more obsolete? Because the thing I like about the look of the old Alien is the fact that everything kind of looks like very sturdy, kind of, old-fashioned equipment. And again, I think it's just the comments are going too fast, Brighton. Let me have a look. You've been playing with acetone a lot. I've dissolved stuff, some fail, sometimes exceeding everything. Oh, cool. I'll have a look at that at some point. Have you seen that? I might have mentioned it before. Have you seen the Red Letter Media video where they buy loads of old Star Wars action figures and just mount them with acetone to piss off the Star Wars fanboys? It's one of those things that's kind of horrible, but I find it funny. Just because of the fact that, they are massive Star Wars fans deep down, or like Star Trek, Star Wars, nerds. But I think they did it just to be dicks. But I kind of find that funny. But acetone's cool. Speaking about chemicals, recently I tried to clean one of the things we had in our kitchen that was meant to be a stainless steel, like oven tray type thing. And because it had loads of fat baked into it, I thought, right, I'll clean it out with not hydrogen peroxide. Is hydrogen peroxide? Sodium hydroxide? Lye, basically. LIE, lye. I tried to clean it out with that, and it turns out, no, they cheaped out on the materials because it dissolved loads of the metal off of it, and then it had to be thrown away. So basically, yeah, lots of kitchen goods as well don't use the proper materials their advertisers using. That's quite interesting, Rich. Weirdly speaking of that, I was hearing recently that Orwell's shooting the elephant, whatever it was called, was brought up recently about killing an elephant in Burma, which sort of sounds like a similar thing. Yeah, Prison Tales. I like the Daniel Craig ones, but I don't massively like them. Like, I know some people that really like them, but my favourite Bond films are probably You Only Live Twice, like Goldfinger, obviously, the first one chronologically, and I'm going to do them in order the films came out. You Only Live Twice because it's kind of the one that all the James Bond stereotypes came from, that in Goldfinger, like the volcano lair, Blofeld with his cat and all that. And it's just a good over-the-top film. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is really good. I think if you were only to watch one Bond film, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the best one. And then I really like the Dalton Bond films. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of Roger Moore ones I like, but I think with the Dalton ones, although it's more like Death Wish than a James Bond film, License to Kill is really bloody good. Yeah, Live and Let Die is excellent. Yeah, that's fairly good for an S10 with the current prices on them. Yeah, sodium hydroxide. You can eat pickles, but I'm not going to eat one on the stream. Yeah, it's annoying when stuff like that happens. Mike, was it an old ceramic one or what? Because saying that, our old ceramic sink we had, though, lasted like 40 years. Whereas one of our plastic ones lasted like 10 years just because it was such a shitty old plastic that went brittle. One of the jokes saying about that, Peugeot, you're George, isn't it? George is your real name. The saying, if you don't mind me saying, George. One of the jokes I really liked in the original Austin Powers, although I didn't get it the first time I watched it, was when the Odd Job ripoff is called Random Task. Like, I didn't get that for ages, and I was like, oh, because Odd Job, Random Task. But yeah, that was just one of the jokes I found quite funny, when I never originally got it. I definitely don't like Quantum of Solace, Fuzzy. The main reason I don't like that, it actually physically gave me a headache because of all the shaky cam and quick cuts. Like, if you watch old proper films, it's good static camera work. You know, even if they had to move cameras, you know, they had them on a track or a dolly or whatever. Quantum of Solace is like somebody going, ooh, the camera, and then all the quick cuts. So even if the story was good, it literally makes me feel ill watching it because it's again, I imagine it might even give you problems if you're epileptic, but you know, it's just not pleasant to watch. It gives you like motion sickness. Yeah, that's the thing in Telebright. There's like I don't mind shaky cam in found footage films because it's sort of appropriate for that. But in proper films, why is everything not filmed properly? Because again, it's like in a proper film, you know, you have proper like lighting as well for like sets. You know, it's one of those things where in real life you wouldn't have stuff lit like that. If you're doing a found footage film, that's fine if you want everything filmed in the dark. But you know, in lots of films, that's why I do day for night shooting and stuff like that. Is because you want to see what's actually going on because it's a film, it's not real life. I can always do a video on it, Prison Tales, but in most of the stuff I'd say is find something you want to do videos on and keep doing videos on it. YouTube definitely seems to recommend channels more that stick to one subject because the problem is for me, I'm into like quite a few different things. Whereas I think if I'd only done videos on like one particular subject, so gas masks and nothing else, I'd get recommended more. But the problem is I find that a bit boring. But don't do like some gaming videos. Don't do, you know, videos on one subject, videos on another subject, because that's where YouTube really seems to think, oh, your channel's not consistent. So did you like it? No Time to Die. Listen, I definitely want to go watch No Time to Die, but I've not seen it yet. But no spoilers. Some people have told me it's crap. Some people I've talked to have loved it, but I'm not watching anything on it that might give spoilers, just because obviously it's one of those films I might watch in the cinema because I'm more motivated to watch that in June. Yeah, Bright. So that's the thing. I don't know much about chemicals at all. I find chemical weapons sort of interesting, you know, and I find some chemistry stuff interesting if it's stuff I need to know occupationally. Like I have to know at work what chemicals not to mix with other chemicals, you know, basic stuff like that, which some people I work with don't know, and you have to immediately stop them. So it's like I have basic COSH training, and even then, it's like, why am I supervising people with chemicals? You know, we're like, oh, this chemical isn't strong, so can I just pour buckets of other chemicals into this bucket? Like, no, don't do that. But yeah, it's like I find like acids and alkalis sort of interesting how they work. But yeah, I mean, my favorite bit of chemistry is probably drugs, but you know that's just because they're fun. Um, there's somebody I went to school with who has done all the proper degrees in literally being a drug cook. Like, there's a proper name for it, but you know, like he could literally cook you up anything because he's one of those people that you know literally knows all the scientific shit. You know, like a qualified Walter White sort of person. I was like, that's really interesting. Whether or not he actually does do stuff on the side, I don't know. But, you know, I just find that interesting that he's a properly qualified sort of person like that. Is that the Venom one, or do you mean like an actual separate Spider-Man film? Um, right, I'll watch that later, Brightel. I've opened it in a tab because I'm going to have to adjust the link, but I can't really watch videos on a stream because my internet craps out. All right, Dan. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I've finally got a day off tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, vinegar is really good for lots of things, isn't it, in Telebrite? But yeah, like I said, the thing is with chemicals, like I said, and I'm not particularly into chemicals, but there's loads and loads of products that use really basic chemicals and they massively overcharge you for it. Or if you find out what's in them, you can basically buy the raw chemical in bulk really cheaply, have some that will last you like months or years, and do a better job of cleaning stuff. No, is that the South Korean TV show Peach? Because I've heard loads of people said that's really good. I've seen a clip of it where like they're playing that like you know Granny's Looking or whatever it's called the game. You know where you have to stop running and then like the robot shoots them. But I've heard it's causing like a massive controversy where it's like oh it's going to make kids killers, so it's probably worth watching for that if it's upsetting all the modern Mary Whitehouse type people. I'll probably watch it, Flazzy, just because everybody's talking about it, and that generally means that there's probably something to it. But I don't get why, you know, there's all the media hysteria around it. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what we called that when I was in school, Peach. It was something like Granny something or other, but is it Granny's Footsteps? Let me Google that. I want to actually find out which all the fucking names are the same games. Granny's Footsteps. So, so one person is Grandma. He, she faces a wall. The other is the group. Start at the other end of the room. They try to creep up to Grandma and tap her on the shoulder. However, at any moment, Grandma can turn around and suddenly, if she sees anyone moving, she points them and the person must return to the start. No one is allowed to move while she is watching them. Whoever manages to tap her on the shoulder becomes Grandma, male or female, and the game starts again. So it's the same game, isn't it? But yeah, I know loads of old things like that have loads of names like British Bulldog, Red Rover, all those. Right, so Peach reckons it's good, Flazzy reckons it isn't. I'll definitely watch it, I think, if I can find it for free somewhere. Won't say any more than that because I'm sure that breaks YouTube policies. I did watch VHS 94 the other week, Mike, and really liked that, so thanks for recommending that. Because I thought that was probably the best one, actually. Maybe. Because VHS 1 and 2, I'd say both are the best in terms of segments, but I find with VHS 1, there's a couple of really good segments and a couple of crap segments. VHS 2 is mostly really good. VHS 3 is pretty crap, although I think there was one segment in that I really liked. But VHS 94, I think I liked all the bits in it. Because what was the ones in VHS 94? There was the Rat Man one. There was the funeral sort of thing, the mangled body, which is quite... I thought that one was quite creepy. There was the one that reminded me of the one in VHS 2 of the sort of cult. It was about the bloke sort of abducting people, the doctor, wasn't it, to turn them into like robots, sort of Soma robots. That's why I found that one, because it reminded me of Soma. I like that one. And then the last one was the like kind of sort of terrorist group sort of militia sort of thing, wasn't it? That were going to use vampire blood to like blow up the FBI or something. Dodgeball was called Kill the Commie. That's a good name for it. Ah, that's good, Mike. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other attitude you can have, Brighto, can't you? You can have, if everybody's sort of jumping on how great it is, it probably means that there's something over the top about it. It's like Game of Thrones I liked, but I don't think Game of Thrones is the best thing ever. But, you know, when Game of Thrones first... Because the problem with Game of Thrones was, when the first couple of series came out, everybody said it was like the best show ever. And then when the last couple of series came out, nobody did anything but bitch about it. Where, because I wasn't massively invested in it, I sort of enjoyed all of it. Although I thought the last series... I'm not going to do any spoilers on here. You know, I thought there was stuff that probably could have been written better, but again, that's because the series got past the George Martin books, didn't they? So they had the problem of, you know, like the writers for the series had to write all of the story out. It wasn't pre-written for them. John Rambo says, why can't I talk? I think a mod timed you out for spamming the comments. I've never bothered watching The Walking Dead. I had an ex that was really into it, but from what I understand, The Walking Dead is another one of those ones where the first couple of series are meant to be really good, aren't they? And then it sort of drags on and on and on because they wanted to make the most money out of the series as possible. Did you not hear me just say that, Mike? Yeah, I said it reminded me of Soma. Or did you just say that because you heard me say it? But yeah, it reminded me of Soma, especially when they look in the mirror and they see like what they look like in the mirror. I thought, oh, that's definitely like the bit from Soma. Start type of glue. Is it just some leftover stuff from the cleaner you were using? Because a lot of cleaners, if you don't wash them off properly, will leave a resin on stuff. But yeah, that's why I like a lot of TV mini-series. You know, the things where they do one series or shows that are only a couple of series long. Because, for example, what's the one I'm thinking of? Like, Band of Brothers is really good. Like, even my granddad, who's like a D-Day veteran, I lent him the Blu-ray of Band of Brothers, and he like binged it in a day. Like normally, he's quite slow at watching films and like bringing them back. And then the Band of Brothers stuff, he just binge watched it because obviously it was the sort of stuff he went through. Band of Brothers is really fucking good, and Pacific's good. And it's like Deadwood I really liked, and at least with Deadwood they did do a movie to finish it off with afterwards, like years after the series, and it was a shame because a lot of the actors had died and couldn't do the film like when it was shot. But Deadwood was really good. I'm trying to think what other series I really like. Boardwalk Empire I really like. I'm pretty certain water will still leave like lime scale marks on stuff unless you're using purified water. Yeah, Chernobyl is excellent. I don't know why I forgot Chernobyl, but yes, even though we quote that quite a lot. And what's my shirt got on it? Rontgens per hour, maxing out over 3. Although this does go up to 300. And again, this wasn't actually radiation maxing this one out. It's because it takes obsolete batteries, and if you only put a D cell in the battery thing that powers the like needle moving, it always maxes out because it doesn't have the resistors powered on to actually lower the thing. Oh, so it's actually a new Spider-Man, is it? So it's ones that are in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. Oh, that kind of interests me because I really like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. Oh, that should be good, Rich. Yeah, the Terror is excellent as well. The Terror is really good. I really like naval stuff though. But yeah, the Terror is good. Hornblower is really good if you like miniseries. Hornblower is like Sharp, but basically at sea. So Hornblower is good. And there's a load of like really good naval films I've watched. I'm trying to remember, but like Black Sails is a really good one. And again, with Black Sails, they could probably have cut a few episodes out. Speaking of a single series, Taboo's really good, the Tom Hardy one. Although there's a couple of episodes that where it drags a bit, but at least being one series, it doesn't drag too much. They could have probably cut it down 1 or 2 episodes, cut the plot down a little bit, and made that better paced. But Taboo's really good. But yeah, I generally find with TV series, I prefer ones that are like 1 or 2 series, just because they have to get to the point of it. They can't do the thing like people say with The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, where you get to the middle series, and because it's making the TV channel so much money, they drag the story out a bit. Well, don't forget, John Rambo, that loads of GP5s were made in like loads of factories. So you might just sometimes masks aren't issued with the correct bags anyway by surplus sellers, and sometimes it's just literally the factory used what they had. I've got all of that on DVD and I've not watched it yet in Telebrite, but that's the one about aliens eating people, isn't it? The V series. Like shape-shifting aliens, is it a bit like They Live? But V's one I've got owned for ages when I bought it when it was like in a sale in HMV when HMV was still a thing, and they had loads and loads of DVDs and Blu-rays like on once they're sold sort of sale, and I think I spent like £100 buying loads and loads of box sets that I never got around to watching. Is all a Hornblower on YouTube? That's good for anybody who wants to watch it. Yeah, I think I might have a DVD of Hornblower somewhere. But yeah, I've seen all of them. But yeah, Sharp and Hornblower are a really good series. Like again, they're kind of limited by their budget, but they're good sort of series. Peaky Blinders, yeah, Peaky Blinders Peach is another one of those things where I really like the first series, and there's a lot of series. I think series 2 was excellent as well, if I remember. But personally, in my opinion, it's like as the series went on, I thought there's some good episodes and some episodes where not really much happens. When you say the horror, do you mean the terror? But North Water, let me look that up. So a 2021 series. Ah, cool. I'll watch that then. So it's actually a similar thing then, because is that to the terror what the lighthouse is to the other version of the lighthouse? And I can't remember the name of it. It might just be the lighthouse, but a different year, because there's like several versions of the lighthouse, aren't there, as well? Although I definitely think my favourite version of Lighthouse is the one with what Robert Pattinson is it and Willem Dafoe. Where they're just jerking off and drinking all day, which is probably what you'd do if you're a bloke stuck in a lighthouse. What's Rain about, Flazzy? And I'm assuming I've not played Warzone because I don't recognise the name. The thing I find a bit annoying at the moment, Flazzy, is they're making Peaky Blinders very fucking woke at the moment. And what I mean by that, so right, we're gonna go over through history here, and so right in the current series of Peaky Blinders and the last series, the main villain in it is Oswald Mosley. Now, a load of you might know who he was. He was the leader of the British Union of Fascists. Now, I certainly don't like fascism, just as I don't like communism or Nazism. But Oswald Mosley, in my opinion, wasn't too bad a bloke. I've read his book. He wasn't really racist or anything like that. Right, I suppose he was probably as racist as anybody in his time, but it's that sort of thing where he certainly wasn't, like Hitler, that was like, Aryan race, all that sort of shit. A lot of it was sort of just disillusioned with politics at the time, quite radical. But he was generally like not anti-Semitic at all from all the stuff I've read in his, like stuff, and when he talks to people, like if you watch the old interviews of him. But in the show, he goes around like going, "Oh, kill the Jews, kill the Jews." He's like that sort of thing. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, But I suppose that's how they do TV now, isn't it? Where it's like, oh, let's find a historical figure and then make them out to be the devil. They'll probably have one soon where like Winston Churchill's going around like murdering people. Because, Winston Churchill was a chain-smoking alcoholic, and he had a lot of racist opinions back in his day, but he also did fight Hitler, which completely redeems him, in my opinion. As in a Gorka suit, John Rambo. I don't have a proper Gorka, but I've got 2 Ukrainian bar suits, which are pretty much the same thing. But speaking of Oswald Mosley, there's actually quite a good TV series about Mosley, just called Mosley. I think it might have been an ITV one from years ago, but it's not very expensive on Amazon. But that's if you want to know about Mosley, that's a much better, like, sort of biographic type drama. And again, there's a bit in that where he meets Hitler, thinks Hitler's a cunt, and then when he's like walking through the streets of Germany, he sees like Jews being beaten up and he's disgusted by it. And again, I think that's kind of the thing, is that he was much more like Mussolini. And again, you can completely hate fascism as an ideology, because again, it's an authoritarian ideology. But if you're a fascist, it doesn't necessarily mean you're like literally Hitler. All right, big boy breadstick. I've been working today, but it's my last day at work today, and I get a day off finally tomorrow. So what's the difference, Brighto, between making ethanol as a cleaner? Because couldn't you use methanol as a cleaner as well? I mean, I know methanol's wood alcohol, isn't it? And I know you obviously don't drink methanol, and ethanol's the one you drink. But because here's a question for you, and I know I could look this up. If you're into chemistry, you might know. What's fundamentally chemistry-wise the difference between ethanol, methanol, and rubbing alcohol, like isopropyl or whatever it's called? Because I know, like, obviously, the only one that's safe to drink is ethanol, but I don't actually know why. Was that one of the people in the BUF, Deadstock? Yeah, they're doing it to loads of people, Ahmed, at the moment, because it's just kind of that, like, woke revisionism. Because the thing is, lots of people historically, like, we would not consider good people by today's moral standards. But we would be considered awful by like future people's moral standards. It's that sort of thing that it really annoys me though when you have stuff that's kind of pretending to be historical and then they like completely rewrite history. Favorite horror movie? Probably Della Morte Della More. It's not particularly scary, but it's a really good movie. That's Cemetery Man in English. If you watch it, watch the English version, because there's an English and Italian version. But as Rupert Everett's the main actor in it, he actually speaks obviously in English, and then he's dubbed over in the Italian one. So you probably want him speaking his native language, and like some of the other actors being dubbed. Well, exactly, Fuzzy. This is the thing that really annoys me, because like if you look at people in the medieval period, they were really barbaric compared to today. And then you get people like saying like, oh, they did these things. It's like everybody did horrible, horrible things in that period of time. All right, fair enough, right? So, are the fumes more dangerous with methanol as well? Because I know obviously you can technically get drunk off of ethanol fumes, can't you? But I imagine methanol fumes, if they're bad if you ingest them, are probably bad if you inhale them as well. You can if you watch the videos on it, John Rambo. I've not got it in this room, and I'm not going to put on a cold weather thing in this sort of, stuff, because that is stuff that's literally designed for minus temperatures in Celsius. If you try and wear that, even like on a not hot day, you'll get horribly overheated really quickly. All right, then stop. But yeah, there's actually quite a good Mussolini. That's what we were talking about. Mussolini. Have you seen the George Scott Mussolini film? That's quite good, or like made for TV film. It's on Amazon, but annoyingly, the Amazon version is abridged. Like, there's a lot of scenes cut out of it. But there's quite a good thing where George Scott plays Mussolini, and again, he's made to be quite sympathetic in that, because they're playing him more like a real person than, you know, like, oh, I just want to kill people. It's basically like a horror comedy in Telebright Films, but it's very well done for what it is. It was one of those films where I went into it with no expectations, and then I was really just pleasantly surprised by just sort of how darkly funny it was, and, you know, like, just some of the bits in it that are just quite thought-provoking. Anyway, I won't be on much longer because the football probably starts quite soon, doesn't it? Like all the pre-match commentary and that, and I know obviously a lot of people want to be watching that, so. No, that's sort of interesting desktop. But yeah, the Mussolini one with George Scott's good because he did it after Patton, so it's if you like the film Patton, it's a bit similar to that. But again, it shows like the bad things he did, and it doesn't try and hide him in the film, but it also does show him, you know, as somebody who loved his family, you know, even though he cheated on his wife and all that, you know. And it shows him by the end of it, you know, being a completely broken man because he gets involved with Hitler, you know, on this idea of glory, and then, you know, everything gets ruined for him. On about the World Cup, I have no idea because I'm not that into football. I might watch the game tonight, but generally I just want England to win whenever it's on because obviously I'm from England. But, you know, I don't get angry when people say I support this team, I support that team. You know, I really don't care about the players or the managers or whatever. It's England. Who are England playing? Is it Hungary today? Let me have a look. England versus Hungary. It starts, like, the game starts at 7:45 our time, so we're in about 15 minutes. But the actual pre-match commentary and all that starts earlier. That's why I'm doing today's stream earlier, because I know a lot of people only actually like the football. Well, the thing is, Fuzzy, I actually enjoyed some of the Euro stuff recently, just because England are actually doing well in it. But like, I prefer the rugby, as I've said before, to the football. But, you know, sometimes I will watch it. Right, hopefully Poland win. I assume Poland's a better team, are they, than Albania? Because I know England's had quite an easy time so far, that they've not been drawn against very good sides so far. But obviously, as you get to like the semi-finals and the finals, you're obviously always going to be against good sides. The reason I know it's on, Justin, is my parents go to watch the local football team, and that's not on tonight. So, you know, where they'd normally actually go out, and, you know, for like a year and a half, they couldn't go to football matches because, you know, all the corona bollocks. Now, because the football is, when there's a football match on telly, like the England match, none of the actual teams play matches normally. It's like some sort of, what would you call it type thing? Courtesy thing, or just because they don't think there'd be as many people going to the games. I don't know, like conflict of interest. I don't know what you'd say. It's a bit like the reason I wouldn't stream while the football's on, because then you stop people watching the stream. So where they would have had a game tonight, there's not a game on tonight. So that's the reason I know, just because like they'll say something like, you know, oh, we'll be out at the football or whatever. Apparently, though, I don't want to get too much into it, Flazzy, because again, a lot of this politics stuff is really boring. But wasn't there a thing recently where one of the players was booed because, like, he left one team to go to another team, or, you know, something like that? But then they were blaming it on the people being racist, and it's like, yes, he's black, and they're booing him, but they weren't booing him because he was black. It was because he switched teams at one point for a better contract or something, and he was seen as a traitor. Because you know how people get into football. Right, tomorrow, Dan, I need to get a video film tomorrow that I wanted to do last week and ran out of time. So I'm going to do the War Emergency Guidebook video tomorrow. if I get time, I will probably do a video on this shitty bulb I was on about earlier, that like a scam product being sold on Amazon. Big Clive's done videos on them anyway, but I didn't see the video before I bought it, and I'm going to do a buyer's beware sort of video. That, you know, Amazon is selling this sort of, you know, Chinese, you know, the Chinese products where they basically claim it does stuff it doesn't do, even though it's being sold for a proper retailer. So it's being sold as a look at that. It's being sold as an LED germicidal lamp, UVC lamp, and it doesn't give off any UVC. So I want to do a video on this just for anybody that might not watch Big Clive's channel but watch mine. You know, so you know what it is, and I'll show it compared to a real UVC lamp, and I'll have the Geiger counters on and all that measuring it. But UVC is the ionizing sort of UV light, the one that, you know, can give you skin cancer, eye burns, stuff like that. It's like arc eye kind of stuff. But it's useful for sanitizing. So yeah, if basically people bought one of these because they were going to use it to sanitize surfaces, which is a proper use of a UVC bulb, they'll basically buy this, and then there'll be germs on the surface or the masks or whatever they were disinfecting with it, and it could end up killing somebody, you know, giving somebody food poisoning or whatever. So that's why it's pissed me off, because like he was saying in the video, you know, it's not really bad in the sense that, you know, some people who might buy UVC bulbs would buy them and then they get something that isn't UVC and they won't damage their eyesight because they don't know what they've got on their hands. In that sense, it's fine. The problem is, you know, as we were saying, that there are people that buy UVC bulbs like job sort of stuff, cleaning, sanitizing stuff, and that's really serious. It's like if you sold toilet bleach that didn't, you know, kill germs, you know, or any sort of surface cleaner that didn't kill germs. You know, so people use it, think the surface is sanitary, and then can pick up bacteria or viruses from it. Because the whole point of UVC is that you basically turn it on in a room that people or animals aren't in to kill the germs and, like, you know, clean the room, essentially. It's basically, it's like ionizing radiation. Well, it is ionizing radiation. It's just a form of, like, you know, closer to visible light than like X-rays and gamma rays are, as kind of, you know, super short wavelength light. But basically it's, you know, it breaks down the air and the molecules and everything like that. Yeah, it was actually Amazon, the one I bought it through, Oliver, and it was actually dispatched from an Amazon warehouse. It wasn't even a seller through Amazon. It was Amazon themselves that had bought something and weren't looking up the product. But yeah, I can't be bothered to get a refund because I wanna actually, you know, do videos on it in the future. But yeah, it is really, I think, bad that they literally will sell stuff like that without checking it. Because, like, here's a UVB bulb. So UVB isn't, you know, as close to UVC as obviously UVC is. It's a bit of a dumb thing to say, but this gives off more ultraviolet, you know, like ozone and stuff like that than the actual you won't be able to see where I've got that light on. Hang on. But this gives off like, if you powered this one on, this gives off way more you know, like ozone and everything else than that fake UVC one does, even though this isn't a UVC bulb. And the UVC bulb I've got, like the proper one that looks like a fluorescent tube, gives off loads of ozone and that. It's actually really unpleasant, you know, if you go into a room where it's been on before you ventilated it properly. But yeah, I just bought it because I thought, oh, that's cool. There's one like with a small screw socket. So, you know, it's like a small one that I can just have if I want to put it in like a desk lamp, you know, to put like in this room or something if I'm not in the room for a bit to kill germs in it. But no, it's essentially just a blue LED light that they're claiming is UVC. Because apparently you can get LED UVC things, but they have to be made in a specific way. And of course, all the cheap companies don't do that. But yeah, actual UVC bulbs, I've got a video on my channel of it. They'll set the Geiger counters off if they've got a glass tube because they are giving off ionizing light. A lot of them do, Cornholio, yeah, because basically how a lot of them work is they're like a fluorescent tube, but they don't have a certain coating on it, like the phosphor, that absorbs the So basically, when you have a regular, like, fluorescent tube light type light, they have a phosphor coating on it that absorbs a lot of the nastier stuff, and, you know, they turn it into extra visible light because the phosphor glows in the dark. Whereas the UVC bulbs are almost like a fluorescent tube, but without any coating on them. So all that light can escape through the glass. And again, yeah, like you said, I think they use a specific quartz rather than regular glass. So because, again, the glass is going to absorb some of it. Do you get an ozone smell, Amid, from it after you've used it? If you can smell ozone, it works. It's real, because you can't make ozone without, an ionization type thing. Like high voltage circuitry makes ozone. X-rays and gamma rays give off ozone. UVC gives off ozone. But if you have something that's not making an ozone smell, then it's obviously not, ultraviolet C, because ultraviolet C is, literally breaking the air down around it. All right, have fun with your daughter in Telebrite reading her Cat in the Hat and all the old Dr. Seuss books, which I'm sure will be cancelled at some point, but have a good evening. Yeah, ozone, I don't think ozone itself is radioactive, is it? But it's definitely poisonous, but that's why it's used to kill germs, because it's basically, when you have basically like an electric arc, the energy of it breaks down the electrons, I guess, are just breaking down. I don't know all the science of how it works, but the electrons are essentially breaking down the air molecules. Yeah, I know, Tom, because I've used it for disinfecting. That's what I'm saying. I don't stay in the room when it's on, and I normally have a welding mask on when I turn it on, because of the fact that it can damage your eyes super quickly. But yeah, it's normally in bathrooms we have it on, to kill mold, and then you have a fan on for a few hours afterwards after it's turned off. That sounds good, Flazzy. I hope you have a good night doing it. I'm going to be off in a minute anyway, because like I said, the football's on. I'm probably going to maybe watch a bit of the football. If England are like stomping Hungary, I'll probably turn it off, because I like it when it's more of a fair game. But, I'm hoping England win, but I want Hungary to play well as well, because I like football, if you're watching it, where it's a good game, where everybody plays their best, so it makes it harder for the idiots to go, look how good my country side is that I had nothing to contribute to, because they beat some foreign country with a massive score, or beat another football team in my country with a bigger score. Like, who cares? It's a game, it's a sport. Well, there was, when COVID came out, well, not COVID came out, when the COVID epidemic started, there were definitely loads of scam sellers, like scamming masks and everything else. Because obviously, if you're a scammer, you don't care about human life, do you? You're basically a scumbag, that's the thing. So what the scammers were doing is any sort of product that, was cheaper, that they could inflate in price and get more sales by claiming it was a COVID product, they did do that. That sounds interesting, Bright. I'll try and remember to watch your videos later, but as I said, I'll be watching the football in a minute. So anyway, I'll be off now. Have a good evening, everybody. I might get a bit of food, because I've not really had proper dinner today. I've had sort of just snacks today. So if Mike's on Twitch tonight, I'll watch you on Twitch. I think you said you might start streaming, was it Last of Us 2? Which I'll watch, because I'm not going to buy a PlayStation 4 or 5 just to play that game. But whatever you're streaming, I'll watch that, because I'm not, I don't have to get up early tomorrow, so I don't have to go to bed early. And I need to get my video filmed for you as well, Mike. So, yeah, I'll end the stream now. I'll get your video filmed, and then I'll upload that as an unlisted video if you're still on, Mike. Yeah. All right, not The Last of Us 2. What you streaming, Dreams or just something else? Doesn't really matter. I don't mind, but it's more there for the chat than anything else. But anyway, yeah, see you all. Right, I'll get the video filmed for you, the creepy story one now, Mike. Again, I think it might be one I've said on this channel before on like one of my random videos, but it's interesting. It's weird. But yeah, so I'll get that film now, and I'll get it uploaded as unlisted. That way you can download it when you want or whatever. And I'll just do it as a webcam thing, just because it's easy. And then, yeah, stick it on your compilation video. Right, have a good evening, everybody. And hope everybody who's watching the football enjoys it. And if you don't bother watching the football, obviously don't bother. Right, have a good evening.